Hello, this is a recording of our Database Search Strategies workshop, part 2 in our 3-part Research Skills workshop series, with part 1 being topic development and part 3 being how to read a scholarly article effectively. Today, we are going to be going over a real quick overview of topic development, just because it is closely tied to how we develop our search effectively. Then we'll move into basic and not so basic search operations for those databases, along with a live demonstration of what each of those will do, and then our wrap-up. So first, we want to review a little bit of that topic development content because going through the pre-research phase before you really start delving into your major research is really important. It's really tempting to skip over, but taking the time to formally go through these steps is going to help make your actual research go a little bit more smoothly further down. So you're not adding on additional work, you're just kind of shifting where the work is happening. So doing this pre-research, that's figuring out what is this term, let me pull out some basic definitions, I'm going to maybe read Wikipedia articles about this. I'm just trying to get a feel for what's going on. And as we go through, I recommend documenting all these ideas and how they connect with each other in a mind map, preferably done by hand, just because your brain works differently when you are committing to writing things out, because your hand can't keep up with your thoughts or even your typing speed, so it forces your brain to start making more connections, and the more connections you have in your head and on the page, the better off you're going to be. The more retention you get, the more connections you're going to make, and those connections are where you get to the interesting parts of a research topic. We want to draw that out as well because everyone is a little bit visual according to actual neuroscience, though of course getting exposure in as many different ways as possible, again, is a way of getting multiple connections, so variety is also good. Sidebar. So we come up with this mind map, we make note of what our terms are. The next phase of that will be to actually document your search terms, so going from idea to search strategy. This table represents our most basic and most obvious search question. How does sleep interruptions from daylight saving time impact people's performance, basically? And from there, we also want to figure out what our synonyms are, either as specific examples or as just related terms. And also important to note, this is an iterative process, meaning that this isn't a one and done and you never look at it again. You should keep coming back to both of these things as you go through your research, both your pre-research and even as you shift into your deeper actual real research, because you're going to be discovering, oh, I didn't think of those terms. I didn't think of that concept. And again, it is still worthwhile to be documenting how those new ideas, those new words relate to your existing search strategy, whether it's something, especially if it's something that can be useful to you. So, talking actual databases, and we like using the library databases because the content is limited, as in it has been curated. It's been specifically chosen for quality and relevance to be included in the search in the first place, as opposed to Google, which has the goal as a search engine to just document everything that's out there, a lot of which is not going to be so relevant nor credible to you. We also have the ability to really control what our searches are doing, and that's the whole point of this workshop, is how we can maximize and do some real strong advanced searching. Our main 3 Boolean operators is the official name for these, bit of trivia, are and, or, and not. Of these, and is the default one that you're going to see in those databases because it is the most powerful. When you're constructing a search, you want to break your idea down into little bite-sized pieces. This thing and this thing and this thing. It's not sleep disruptions from daylight savings time impact performance. It is sleep and disruptions and performance and impact. So bite-sized pieces, each main idea joined together by that and operator to make our very, very specific list that will give us fewer and fewer results with each and something that we add, they're more likely to be relevant to our search. So that one is the most powerful. That's why it's the default. And that will be all you really need, honestly, for 90% of the searches you do in the databases. That will be fine. You can also take advantage of, skipping down, this not is very straightforward, exactly like it sounds. If you are doing some searches and you realize you keep seeing Norway mentioned for some reason, but you don't care about Norway and what sleep is like there, you hop back up to your search and say not Norway. Kick those results out. Or is kind of the oddball here. Or will make the number of results go up. It's one to use very sparingly and very, very strategically. Because you say this term or this term, you're getting all of term A as well as all the results for term B, whether they relate to each other or not, you're seeing all of them. And our first extra advanced search strategy that closely relates to these is also our use of parentheses. The way you can make use of that or is by thinking of two very, very, very closely related words. In this case, we use college or university. Technically there's a difference, but they're often used interchangeably or at least discussed together for obvious reasons. Rather than use or completely separately in my search, I'm going to pack it inside parentheses. And so it works like a math equation. If you think back to order of operations, this is going to give me results for students and college, as well as results for students and university. And so that is going to be more results than just searching for students and college. But because these two words are so closely related, and as I did my mind mapping and my pre-research, that occurred to me, so I thought to make note of these, I'm going to be a little bit more efficient in my search. I'm going to have slightly more results in the first place, but that gives me a little bit of extra wiggle room if I want to add in a third or a fourth search term on there. I'm not going to bottom out too quickly. And again, those terms are just so closely related. I don't want to have to do separate searches for them. So looking at our actual databases, I'm over here in Academic Search Complete. We want to click into Advanced Search, and the link for that is always going to be around the main search field. And if I start off with my one basic term just to establish a baseline, I get close to 1 million articles. Not going to be relevant to me. But if I add in college, 120,000 articles is still a lot. But you can see we also got rid of 800,000 articles just by adding this single term. If I add on finals as a third search term, we get rid of another 100,000 articles, and we're below 2,000 now. This is still pretty high. I'd want to come up with a fourth term, maybe grades. And with these 4 terms, I get down to a very manageable number of search results. And I can further improve and limit these results by using my filters on the side to say only full text articles, to get articles I can immediately read the text of. Maybe I want to make the articles a little more current than the last 10 years. And if I'm looking for expert analysis and studies into this topic, I may limit to scholarly peer-reviewed journal articles. So there we go. So from close to 1 million articles down to just 24 that I can read and immediately access. I saw one non-English one, so maybe let's get rid of that one Estonian article. And those 4 basic areas are going to be the most useful filters in addition to your key search strategy up here. Just to throw in here, we'll try out with or university. And notice the database is giving me some suggestions. And this is another good way of getting ideas about, oh, undergraduate. I hadn't thought of undergraduate yet, that you can take into account. I'm just going to stick with college or university. So we're starting off with 23 articles from this point, adding on an or phrase. And we can see the number of results does go up. Again, you want to do that in limited doses, and again, very, very strategically, because we don't want millions of articles or even thousands of articles. But this one is just enough of a jump and is relevant enough that it's going to be helpful for us still. We may look through here again and decide, oh yeah, let's redo the English search. maybe we keep seeing medical field information coming up. I don't care about the medical effects of stress. So let's try throwing in a not medical. And there we go, kicking a few more results out. Figuring out exactly which terms are going to be the most useful is part of the research process. You document, you discover terms, you've hit a good search, you hit a bad search, you go back in and tweak it, and that's just the way this goes. If you end up bottoming out your search results, getting down to just a couple or even 0 results found, like so, just consider whichever term is the most specific and the one that you can most stand to lose. Broaden that search result back up slightly by taking it out, rerunning that search, and regroup from there. Again, your search results will help you figure out new search results. Be sure to pay attention to the terms used in the article titles, as well as, in the case of the EBSCO databases, the subject terms tagged with the article, because these can give you additional good ideas to try out. Some other, even more advanced search operators to use. The wildcard can be useful in certain situations. So this will just introduce some variability. The databases will already take into account plurals, so you don't need to be doing anything special to get dog versus dogs. It's going to do that. But if you have, you're trying to figure out what are the impacts on the economy of industrialization in the 19th century, maybe we want to talk about the economics of that, or the economy, or what did economists say, or was this economical? So those are all a little bit more variable. They're still very closely related at the root, but these are very different words ultimately, even if they all may address something we want to say about our topic. So we can use the wildcard to just stop the word at the end of that common root, and then this would give us back results for these different endings, wherever that asterisk fills in. So that can be useful, again, not for every search or every time, but it has its place. Quotation marks. This one is very useful, and by the way, also works on Google. It's a fairly universal kind of search. If you know for sure something is a set phrase, this is the name of something or someone, it can often be a good idea to go ahead and place that term inside quotation marks. I want Pablo Picasso, quotation marks. I want Chauvet Cave, quotation marks. When you don't use quotation marks, there is an implied and typically between these, but there's actually kind of a big difference between saying Chauvet Cave and Chauvet and Cave, because we can get articles that mention Chauvet, France, and there's cave systems nearby, but that's not the focus of the article, and it doesn't actually specifically address that one specific cave, even if it does have both terms. We circle around the topic, we make our searches more likely to be relevant, but it's not always a 100% exact match. It just matches the checklist, but there's still other wiggle room ideas in there. So using those quotation marks, we keep the phrase together. It has to be that exact match. Do recommend using that for those proper nouns, proper place names. There's also, and this one is, again, a really specialized one, probably the least likely of these to be used, and that's the proximity search. Not all databases support this either. In Gale, you mark it with the N5, with JSTOR it's the tilde, the little squiggle 5, and so what that was telling the database in that case is one word will be within 5 words of your second term. So if I look for college and stress within 5 words of each other, so we've got more flexibility than this being a set phrase, but it's also narrower than just saying an article that mentions college and stress somewhere within all 20 pages of the article. They have to be closer to each other, and that's a way of targeting those search results to be a little bit more relevant than, these two terms did appear in this one article. If they're being mentioned close together, it's probably going to be more likely to be what your topic is. But again, usually not necessary. Usually the and will take care of things. and it's not in every database, so that's why I have two specific ones named here. But just be aware that that is a possibility. And of course, if you're at that point in your research and it's not working, this would be a great time to also talk to the librarians. Feel free to consult us on, I tried to find information about this topic. I found these articles, but I really can't find something about this. What search terms should I be trying? What database should I be looking at? That is our wheelhouse. So putting it all together, again, our little bite-sized pieces, going back to our original mind map concept, maybe we would search for sleep and daylight saving time in quotation marks as that phrase, and disrupt with that wildcard that would give us results back for disrupt, disrupts, disruption, disrupted, anything with that same root. And keep in mind, so I mentioned that a few things can be a little bit different, but the basic principles and the basic strategy for search is going to be the same across the databases. We looked at Academic Search Complete, which is one of the EBSCO databases. Those all tend to look and function pretty much the same. But even if you go into JSTOR, also has an advanced search. It looks a little bit different. It only starts us with 2 fields, but we can still add on those additional keywords. We can choose our Boolean operators. There's those near 5, 10, 25. It offers us same basic functionality. Gale, advanced search, same basic functionality. We have our search fields, we have our Boolean operators. ProQuest, advanced search, same basic functionality, same operators once again. So they will look a little bit different. Some of the other filter options that you have will look different based on the individual databases and what types of content they have. The basic fundamentals will stay the same. Take your topic, break it down to those little bite-sized pieces that wrap around your idea, join them together, usually with an and. Keep in mind that you can layer some of your search terms as well using those parentheses within a row, and then go. And be sure to use those other filters to full text, whatever it is that you need. If you have questions, if you're getting stuck, of course, that is why the librarians are here. Myself and my colleagues are happy to work with you on developing your search, developing your topic, which, as we established, is closely related to what search terms you'll use. You can email us, you can text us, you can submit a ticket through our FAQ system directly. There is a live chat in various places on the website that you can use that will go out to all the Lone Star librarians. But however it is that you get in touch with us, please do. This is what we live for, and we'd love to help you be able to most effectively search in these databases to get the results that you need. And that concludes our overview of the basic and not so basic search functions in the library databases to maximize your search efficacy. Be sure to also check out the other tutorials on developing your mind map and pre-research in more detail, as well as how to effectively identify articles from your search results in the How to Read Scholarly Articles tutorial. Thanks and goodbye.